Hello，大家好，我是 KK Trader。
今天来给大家介绍这本书《The Complete Penny Stock Course》。Let's look at the book I purchased at a conference 2019. This is the signature of Team SYKES. And today we are going to go through this one. I typed already, but my computer had a problem and it erased everything off. So now I'm using this effort to show you the book, chapter 3, one short selling. Overview. Getting familiar with the concept of short selling, stocks, and the intricate set of rules associated with this type of trade goals. The goal of this chapter is to provide you with a proper understanding on how short selling works and what the rules are for performing this type of trade. At the end of this chapter, you will know what short selling is, how to short a stock, what the dangers of short selling are, how to enter and exit a short position, the cost, and rules of short selling a stock. What is short selling? Short selling or shorting is the action of borrowing shares from a shareholder through your broker as an intern and then selling them in the stock market as if you would hold them yourself. This action opens the position. You are then required to buy those shares back in order to return them to the lender. This is known as buying to cover, familiarly known as covering. This type of trade is performed when the price of the stock is expected to go down. A trader will short a stock at a high price if the price drops. The absolute value of the difference between the profits. On the other hand, if the price increases, the trader covers at a loss. The figure below shows the players involved in a short sell action. Sorry, I use this effort to try to let you read the whole thing if I have my accent. See the picture, trader, the broker, the lender, the unhappy buyer, the seller. Each player has an essential role in the process of short selling a stock. The trader is usually you. The broker is the company that provides you with the means of performing a trade. The lender is the entity that is currently a shareholder of the stock you want to short sell. The buyer is the entity that will obtain your borrowed shares once you have short sold them. The seller is the entity you will buy to cover your shares from. In the figures below, a profitable short sell trade is depicted. However, the principle applies to both profiting and losing trades. Price starts falling. Look at the picture. You can pause if you want to read this picture more in details. So let me read the bottom part. Sorry, it's a little bit of blur. Let me try the best. In simple terms, during the first phase of the short selling process, you are borrowing shares from your broker, who is actually borrowing from a shareholder willing to lend those shares. Then the process works as regular sale with the expectation that you must at some point return the shares to their rightful owner. The second phase of the short trade is a buying to cover, which basically means instructing your broker to buy the shares back on your behalf and return them to the lender. At this point, you keep the negative difference in price. The shares you return are worth less than what you originally sold them for, or you must pay the positive difference. The shares you return are worth more than what you originally sold them for. This final phase essentially concludes the short selling process. The continual hunt for shares to short. One of the difficulties in performing short selling trades lies in the concept of finding shortable shares. Unlike traditional buy and sell trades, short selling requires a trader to borrow shares in order to be able to short. This implies that there are an even smaller numbers of shares available for type of transaction, making added a layer of complexity to the trade. Shortable shares needed to be located by your broker dealer, and they can either be easy to borrow or hard to borrow. Locating shares and the regulation SHO. In order for traders to be able to short stocks, their brokers are required to have confidence that they can find the shares to borrow. This is one of the rules to which brokers are subjected when it comes to short selling and established by regulation SHO. The rule is as follows. Locator requirement regulation SHO requires a broker-dealer to have reasonable grounds to believe that the security can be borrowed so that it can be delivered on the date delivery is due before affecting a short sale order in any equity security. This locate must be made and documented prior to effecting to the short sale commission SA 200 2005. Essentially, what this means is that a broker must have reasonable grounds to believe, which is an entirely subjective approach, that the security can be borrowed. This does not, in fact, require the broker to actually prove that the shares are borrowable, only to have good reasons to believe that they are. The only marketing entity actually allowed to engage into short selling without following the locate rules stated above are market makers. They are exempt on the grounds that shorting without a locate allows them to bring liquidity to the market. Easy to borrow. Easy to borrow shares refers to shares for security deemed widely available for borrowing because their delivery is assured. This availability is ensured by high quantity of outstanding shares and easy accessibility. Easy to borrow. Shares for a given stock appears on the easy to borrow list, which simply represents a list of securities that have standing assurances in regards to share availability. This allows firms to perform short selling transactions more easily and removes the necessity to perform a locate every time that the stock is requested for a short sale trade. A stock on the easy to borrow list is assumed to be available, which constitutes reasonable grounds to believe that the security can be borrowed. Hard to borrow. Like the name sound, hard to borrow shares represent shares that are difficult to locate or for which the broker doesn't currently have an inventory available or have very low availability in its inventory. The hard to borrow list represents a list of securities that are currently not available for the broker to borrow from, and actual locate action would be necessary in order to allow traders to perform the short sale transaction. This list is usually only internally available to brokers and not publicly published to traders. How to borrow shares when located by the broker may be lent to the trader and may be subjected to an additional hard to borrow fees on certain short sales. Entering a position short selling. The actual process of entering a short sale position varies from broker to broker. The principle is, in a sense, similar to a traditional buy order. Instead of buying, you are simply selling and setting your trade parameters accordingly, taking into consideration that stock amounts will be higher than your currently priced, and that in order to generate a profit, the price needs to drop. Some brokers will allow you to perform a short sale by simply selling a security for which you have zero position. Your position then becomes negative. It is worth noting, however, that some broker platforms have a dedicated short sale button in order to perform these type of transactions. For more details on entering a position and the necessary parameter, please refer to chapter 2.10. Exiting a position, buying to cover. Much like selling an open long position initiated with a sell order, closing a short position initiated with a short sell is achieved by performing a buy to cover order. Most brokers will simply allow you to buy the necessary number of negative shares or shares owned by using the buy order button and setting the order parameters as necessary. Much like opening the short position, some brokers will have a dedicated button to perform the buy to cover transaction. The same risk management rules apply for this type of order. For more details on exiting a position and the necessary parameter, please refer to Chapter 2:10. The danger of shorting selling. The dangers of short selling. While trading in itself is inherently about risk management and understanding dangerous and risky situations. By adding another layer of complexity, short selling brings its own set of the dangers on top of the existing ones for traditional trades. The infinity upside. A traditional buy and sell trade involves purchasing shares of a security at a certain price, with the expectation of a higher price in the future, with no real mathematical limit to how high the price could go. On the other hand, on the other side, the maximum risk and the worst case scenario associated with that trade would be the price falling down to zero and losing the whole investment. Price for a stock cannot be negative. This isn't the case for short selling. Since you are entering a position that relies on the price going down, your maximum profit would be limited by the company's worst case scenario of a zero price point. The upside, on the other hand, has no limit. As such, the potential losses are not limited to the investment but could well go beyond that value, turning a significant loss into debt. The reason for this is that there is no limit to how high the price can potentially go, and while it is impossible for a stock to reach infinity, stocks rising tenfold in price aren't unheard of. This is where the exit rule of cutting loss quickly becomes all the more important. Short selling has no limit on the losing side. This brings us to the next section, the short squeeze. Short squeeze. Considering that there is no limit to how high the stock price can go, short sellers became wary of increasing price action. A short squeeze is an event relating to positive price action on a stock that is heavily shorted. When the price starts increasing drastically, short sellers get uncomfortable with their position and cut their losses by covering their positions. This often causes a chain reaction that results in a continuous increase in price, a result of a successive buy orders by short positions. As traders attempted to exit their position by limiting their losses when the price goes up. A short squeeze can sometimes drive stock momentum and create supernova type charts that then become potential shorts. Forced buy-in. A forced buy-in is an event when a broker forces a buy to cover transaction onto a trader to short sell open position at whatever market prices at the time of the event. This type of event happens due to another rule of regulation SHO that states closeout requirement. Regulation SHO imposes additional delivery requirements on broker-dealer for securities in which there are relatively substantial number of extended delivery failures at a registered clearing agency. Threshold securities, for instance, with a limited expectation exception, regulation SHO requires brokers and dealers that are participants of a registered clearing agency to take action to close out failure to deliver positions, open fails. The threshold security that have persisted for 13 consecutive settlement days. Closing out requires the broker or dealer to purchase security of like kind of and quantity until the position is closed out. The broker or dealer and any broker or dealer for which it clears transactions, for example. An introducing broker may not effect further short sales in the threshold security without borrowing or entering into a bona fide agreement to borrow the security known as the pre-borrowing requirement. Commission SA 2005. With this regulation, SHO rule implies is that when brokers fail to deliver shares to buyers during a certain period of time because they are unable to actually locate the shares, they are required to actually add those shares to their inventory by buying and closing the position. This in turn means that the broker are required to close all their clients' short positions in order to balance their inventory. We have a few pages to finish, so be patient. Some brokers will sometimes provide clients with a warning that a forced buy-in may happen in the short term, which gives traders the opportunity to exit their position at their discretion. However, in some cases, the forced buy-in will occur without any notice until after it has happened. SEC halt. An SEC halt involves the suspension of all trading activity of a given stock by SEC due to regulatory or non-regulatory reasons. There are two types of trading halts and delays: regulatory and non-regulatory. The most common regulatory halt and delay happen when a company has pending news that may affect the securities price. A news pending halt or delay. By halting or delaying trading, market participants can have time to assess the impact of the news. Another type of regulatory halt happens when a market halts trading in a security when there is uncertainty over whether the security continuously meets the market's listing standards. When a regulatory halt or delay is imposed by a securities primary market, the other U.S. market that also trade the security honor this halt. This basically means that the stock may be halted at any time at the discretion of its SEC when it believes that some event may affect the price of the security. It is intended as a way to protect traders from trading by allowing them to obtain further information on what's happening with a given company. While this doesn't happen too often, it's usually subjected to stocks that have a high rate of short sellers, such as pump and dumps. This often triggers an SEC investigation. The SEC does not halt or delay trading in a security for news pending or other imbalances, but it can suspend trading for up to 10 days and if appropriate take action to revoke a securities registration. For more information about SEC's authority to suspending trading in a security, please read Trading Suspension when the SEC suspends trading in a stock in our Fast Answers data bank. Commission SA trading halts and delays ND. The danger with this type of action is that all trading is suspended for as long as the halt lasts, which means that it is impossible to recover the cash from an open position as long as it remains in effect. On the other hand, when it comes to shady companies, an SEC halt is usually followed by a significant drop in price. What is a short sale restriction? A short sale restriction, SSR, is also known as the alternative uptake rule, or Rule 201 of the SEC, a regulation SHO. It regulates stocks that have dropped more than 10% by subjecting them a short sale rule that prevents a short seller from selling at or below the best bid price. The rule states the following: trading centers shall establish, maintain, and enforcing written policies and procedures reasonably designed to 1. Prevent the execution or display of a short sale order of a covered security at a price that is less than or equal to the current nation best bid if the price of that covered security decreases by 10% or more from the covered security's closing price as determined by the listing market for the covered security as of the end of regular trading hours on the prior day and impose the requirements of paragraph BLI of this section for the remainder of the day and the following day when a national best bid for the covered security is calculated and disseminated on a current and continuing basis by a plan processor pursuant to an effective national market system plan. Commission SA Amendments to Regulation SHO 2010. This rule effectively prevents short sellers from driving the price down at a quick rate. It also ensures that a short sale can only happen after the highest bid is increased, hence the name uptake rule. The 2.5 rule, $2.50 rule. The $2.50 a share rule is only applied by some brokers, such as interactive brokers. This rule goes into effect when short selling stock under $1 and states that for every share shorted under $1, the trader must have a $2.50 per share in account cash value. This essentially means that if you traded 1,000 shares of a stock at 25 cents a share with a market value of $250, your cash account must have at least $2,500 in order to perform that trade. It's important to keep this fact in mind when attempting to short sell stocks below $1, as it will considerably limit your position sizes. The cost of short selling. Short selling is simple to a loan. You are borrowing shares from a third party through your broker. As with any loans, there is an annual interest rate associated with the share loan, which varies from stock to stock. How interests are calculated also varies from broker to broker and should be available upon request. The basic idea is that shortable shares are usually subjected to an annual interest rate on a per share basis. This implies that the total value of your position will be subjected to this interest rate on a daily basis. This fee is added to a broker commissions and regulatory fees. The basic calculation would be something like this. Borrowed fees per day equals position value times interest rate divided by 360 days. Divided 360 days. Position value times interest rate divided 360 days. Interactive brokers has an additional rule for stocks priced under $1, stating that the price per share under $1 must be rounded to the nearest dollar multiplied by the number of shares in order to get the borrow fee base position value. This explains here using the link below, right here, okay? Summary. We are almost done here, so please listen up. Summary. Short selling allows a trader to borrow a stock and sell in order to make a profit from a stock with a decreasing price. Short selling is entirely reliant on the availability of shares to short in the broker's inventory. To enter a short position, it simply requires selling the stock at a desired price. The trade will result in a negative short position. To exit a short position, It simply requires buying the stock at the desired price. The trade will result in a zero share position. Short selling is riskier than buying, as a significant losing position will not only bring the investment to a zero value, but can also create debt by going above the old value. Short selling can be subjected to a short squeezes when a greater number of short sellers shorting the same stock and the price increases. This forces every short seller to panic and exit the position, driving the price higher. Short sold stocks may be subjected to forced buy-ins, which means that the broker will force a buy to cover trade at the market value, regardless of the trader's current profit loss position. A company's trading may be halted by the SEC for up to 10 sessions for regulatory or non-regulatory purposes when suspicious activity or unusual activity is detected. Companies experiencing a 10% drop from the previous close may be subjected to a short sale restriction, also known as the alternative uptake rule. This prevents traders from shorting a stock at or below the highest bid. Some brokers will enforce the $2.5 rule when shorting stock under $1 per share, which requires traders to have $2.50 for every share shorted that is below $1 a share. Short sale trades are subject to borrow fees that vary from stock to stock and from broker to broker. We have questions and homework. I don't want to do all of that. And if you have already listened and read the whole this chapter, you will understand, you will have your own question answered, okay? And how to short a stock. You can find from the Google also to find any new terms, any other things, you know, how to short a stock. And why would you short a stock? How do you short a stock? And a simple example short selling transaction. What are the risks of shorting a stock? Be careful with the short selling. A little bit volatile and big market is going up and certain stocks still dropping. It's why I'm trying to share this information with you guys to see whether you can take advantage of the downside. You can short a stock. But this is very risky. I did lost lots of money on shorting the stock. And mainly I made money from buying and sell. But recently I did one stock just one day, a few more days, trading, I made probably about 2,000 or $1,000 today. I made $100. I did. Actually, I can make $300, but I just want to get out to watch. So be very, very careful if you want to try sell short stock. Also, not every single stock can be shorted because sometimes it is hard to borrow from your broker. Okay, be very careful at the market. Short is more riskier. Okay, again, thank you very much for watching. Please click the like button, subscribe so you won't miss anything. And share the link, make comments if you have any good ideas. Thank you very much again. Thank you. Have a nice day. Bye.